What is up, everyone? It's Quinn here, and in today's video, I'm going to be going through my Week 12 top 20 tight end rankings. Posted the quarterbacks earlier today. Defenses will be coming out today also. But let's just dive right into tier 1. I have 3 guys in this tier. Now, I do think if we wanted to nitpick, Trey McBride probably should be in a tier by himself at this point. He's averaging 24.5 points per game with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback. That is just insane. He's not had a bad game with him. All of a sudden, he went from a guy who couldn't score touchdowns to now he's scoring at least one touchdown every single week. So Trey McBride locked in tight end 1. But I also think you have a couple of top tier options. Brock Bowers going up against the Browns. Since his return from that knee injury, he had the one nuclear game where he went 12 for 127 and 3 touchdowns. He had the one brutal game where he had 1 reception for 3 yards. And then he had like a mid-level performance this past week, Monday Night Football, where he went 7 for 72. I still think he's a top tier talent. Offensively, he's in a pretty rough situation, but still someone who I view as a high-end tight end 1. And then the last guy, George Kittle, slow start to the season, back-to-back huge games, 23.4 and 24.7 PPR points. I think getting Brock Purdy back is going to be big for him. And then in tier 2, 2 guys in this tier, Travis Kelce and Tyler Warren, actually going up against each other this week. So Travis Kelce coming off a really nice week 11, 9 receptions for 91 yards and a touchdown. He has been super productive in his last 6 games, 16.7 points per game. And then for Tyler Warren, super strong rookie season. He's the tight end 7 in points per game. Coming off the bye week, continues to have a really strong role in this Colts offense. Now shifting into tier 3, starting it off with another duo that's in the same matchup. Jake Ferguson at number 6, and then Dallas Goedert at tight end 7. Ferguson hasn't been super productive in his last 3 games, 0, 8, and 11.6 PPR points, but he's always going to have a lot of touchdown upside on this Cowboys offense. It's just he's the number 3 target behind Lamb and Pickens. Dallas Goedert, kind of a similar situation, under 9 PPR points in 3 of his last 4 games, and then he has not hit 50 receiving yards in his last 4. Still someone who can have a weekly boom game, showed a lot of touchdown upside early on in the season. Then I've got Juwan Johnson going up against the Falcons, and just got to put some respect on his name. Last 4 games, 13.6 PPR points per game. He's actually scored his first 2 touchdowns of the season in his last 2 games. Those just happen to be the games where Tyler Shuck was his starting quarterback. Shuck is going to continue to be the starter moving forward. So that seems like a good thing for Juwan Johnson. Also, the Rashid Shaheed trade, I just think it's going to concentrate the targets even more between Chris Olave and Juwan Johnson. Then at tight end 9, I have Hunter Henry. And admittedly, this doesn't feel great because Henry's been pretty brutal as of late. He's actually scored under 10 PPR points in his last 7 games. This is just such a great matchup against the Bengals. I think Drake May is going to have a really strong performance. And then the Bengals are allowing the most points per game to the tight end position. And it's not even close. Like, it's by a full 4 PPR points per game. So if Hunter Henry doesn't produce in this matchup, you might have to just stick a fork in him rest of season. And then the last guy in this tier, Kyle Pitts going up against the Saints. No Michael Penix, likely no Drake London. Pitts has been underwhelming, under 8 PPR points in his last 3 games. But at some point, you're going to have to throw to someone, right? Kirk is going to have to target someone. Mooney hasn't been great. They don't really have anything else at wide receiver. I think Kyle Pitts is going to get a decent number of targets. Hopefully he can do something with those. Now moving into tier 3, I'm going to start it off with Mark Andrews going up against the Jets. And he's had 3 really strong games in a row, 16.6, 10.4, and 15.7 PPR points. The issue is that he has just been super touchdown dependent. In those 3 games, he has 103 total yards, 4 touchdowns. So the weekly floor is very low. If he went out against the Jets and had 1 reception for 10 yards, no touchdowns, that would not surprise me at all. But he can also go, 3 for 30, score 2 touchdowns, and you feel good about starting him. This is where the tight end position does start to feel a little bit sketchy. Tight end 12, Dalton Schultz going up against the Bills. Schultz has been super steady, 11 plus PPR points and 60 plus yards in 6 of his last 7 games. I don't really trust Davis Mills at quarterback, but like I said, Schultz has been pretty solid. We'll see if he can keep it rolling here against the Bills. Then I've got Cade Otton going up against the Rams. Came back down to earth in week 11, 2 for 28. He had scored at least 8 PPR points in his previous 5. We'll also see about the health status of Chris Godwin and Buck Irving. Are there going to be extra weapons added back to this offense? Then I've got Brenton Strange going up against the Cardinals. No guarantee he plays this week, but it is possible he returns in week 12. He had logged back to back solid games before his injury, 6 for 61 and 6 for 45. This is a Jaguars team that is just kind of looking for weapons to break out on this offense. That could potentially be Brenton Strange down the stretch. And then the last guy in this tier, Theo Johnson, going up against the Lions. Jackson Dart, very likely back. Since week 4, Theo Johnson is averaging 11.3 points per game. Has kind of been hitting in the touchdown department, but him and Dart clearly have chemistry. He's running a crazy high percentage of the routes. So someone who's very viable as like a high-end tight end 2. And then the fifth and final tier, this is where we're getting into like sketchy usage or just guys who are very inconsistent week to week. I'll start it off with Colston Loveland going up against the Steelers. I would like to see Loveland really kind of pull away. The more and more we see of this Bears offense, it seems like they're young guys like Colston Loveland, Luther Burden. I think both of these guys are going to be very good NFL players. I think they're talented, or I think they're going to have really strong careers, and I think they're going to be very relevant for fantasy, for the foreseeable future. But it does just seem like both of these guys are probably going to have those breakouts heading into year 2. Loveland was only sitting at like a 58% route participation, which is just not a super strong start. And then actually another rookie tight end was at that exact same mark, 58% route participation. That was Harold Fannin. Him and Njoku actually ran the exact same number of routes. And when you're like barely running routes on half of the dropbacks, and you're on a terrible offense, and you got a new quarterback who has like pretty much no chemistry with anyone, it's just a really gross situation. So tough to get any higher on Harold Fannin. Then I've got Noah Fant going up against the Patriots. Last 6 games, he's averaging 7.6 points per game. That's nothing crazy, but with Jamar Chase suspended, likely going to be a pass-heavy game script. Like, there's just not a ton of other weapons out there aside from T. Higgins, and then I guess like Yoshi Voss at wide receiver, Chase Brown at running back. I do think this could be a game where Fant commands more targets than he's seen in previous weeks. Then I've got Dawson Knox going up against the Texans. Just found out Dalton Kincaid officially out for this one. Was not expecting him to play. And with Kincaid out last week, Dawson Knox usage was very strong. Didn't command a crazy amount of targets or anything, but he had an 82% route participation. His role in this Bills offense without Kincaid is going to come with a decent amount of touchdown upside. He led the team in routes, so great offense. That type of usage, for the Bills, I think is fair as like a mid-tier tight end 2. And then the last guy in these rankings, AJ Barner going up against the Titans. Believe this is the first time I've talked about both Dawson Knox and AJ Barner in one of these videos. Barner has not been super consistent, but he had a really nice week 11, 10 receptions for 70 yards. In his previous 3 games, he had 4 total receptions. I think AJ Barner is a very good NFL player in terms of him being like super fantasy relevant. I don't really trust him week to week. I think long term, he's probably going to be like more of a nuisance to Elijah Arroyo, just because he is such a good real life player that Arroyo not being a great blocker, it's going to be tougher for him to kind of break in and get like a full-time route share in this offense. So Barner, good player. If you're super desperate, he's coming off a nice game, but don't have a ton of confidence in this tier 5. But that is going to wrap it up for my top 20. If you guys enjoyed the video, do me a huge favor, hit that like button and subscribe. Thank you all for stopping by. Stay tuned for the defenses, and I will see you in the next one.